Even after everything, there's fragments of silicon.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Right, I suppose first thing is first. You might have noticed that there was ultimately no broadcast of reviews last Sunday or Monday. There are reasons for this. We will get to them very soon. But in regards to the reviews, everything's just been pushed back a week, more or less. Mainly because um, recording two sets of reviews in a week is very time consuming and um, hard to find space within the week.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, everything that we were going to do this past Sunday is going to be done this upcoming Sunday. So with that in mind, let's get to the news. Gollix, why don't you go first since you probably have the most traumatic news going
Yeah,
this week?
well, I'll try to keep it brief and not in too much detail. Well, I thought things were going bad when, like, last Friday, one of my hard drives stopped responding. Um, and I'm still not, still haven't done anything to resolve that. But then on Sunday, early in the morning, my dad had a stroke. Um, and mom took him to the hospital right away. Or no, he got an ambulance. I was asleep. She woke me up right before she went to the hospital. Thankfully, they removed the clot and got everything done within like a couple hours. And ultimately, even that day, he was speaking lucidly and didn't have any significant memory loss, and he could use both arms. And they just had to do testing and keeping him in observation for a couple days, and he came home yesterday evening. But even though everything seems to be basically good now, that was extremely difficult for all of us and stressful. So I've had a couple of days where I did not sleep that well and my stomach was not happy, but I feel like I'm still kind of like getting untightened up from it. 'Cause there's still a little bit of fear of like something else going wrong, whether or not that's warranted. But I think we're okay now. Um, Obviously that put something of a dent in my video game playing. But I am preparing for the Splatfest and Splatoon 3. This one is the Tears of the Kingdom release tie-in the week before, so they don't have to, compete with the actual release. Of which do you use, Seek, Power, Wisdom, or Courage, which I think has a different answer for me than which one do you think is the most important or which one do you value the most, So I decided to go with Team Courage for this one, even though I'm pretty sure that's the team that's going to have by far the most people and therefore have a hard time scoring relative points because you'll get a lot of mirror matches.
I thought they fixed that with 2 and 3. I know that was a big problem in Splatoon 1.
They still happen. It's just that they kind of affect score, but like matches versus opposing teams score way more.
Mm,
So it's possible for the most popular team to win now. It's just hard,
yeah.
especially since it's split among the ones where you can have a team, the ones where you have to be on your own, which is called Pro, but is actually arguably more casual friendly. And then the tricolor things after the halfway point.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, looking forward to that. Haven't really done much in Pokemon, but I think we did the Cold Inteleon, and the next one is. I swear they revealed this. Maybe they didn't.
I think they're redoing the
Oh yeah, Walking Wake Iron Leaves is live now.
yeah,
Which is different because this is a through the week one instead of just a weekend.
and I think they switched the versions on this one.
No, they're still the same.
Oh,
And you can't catch them if you already did. You can't catch
Yeah.
either one if you already did.
yeah.
It's just they're making it available again, minus the bug that caused some people to catch bad eggs because they got into the raid. Well, not bad eggs, but non-functional eggs because they got into the raid before actually downloading the update, including the data for the new Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Because Game Freak is good at games.
Small indie development studio.
I mean, it's a small studio, but anyway, they have issues. And I'm really looking forward to Tears of the Kingdom releasing in a couple more weeks. It has apparently leaked on the internet, and I have not been seeking them out, but also not like dodging them like as if they were deadly bullets.
Apparently, people I know who frequent the Legend of Zelda Reddit, the mod team is currently going insane over there for obvious reasons.
Uh-huh. Anyway, it sounds like it's going to be good, but I don't know too many details.
I still need to beat Breath of the Wild. I may do that someday.
Although it does seem like this one's going to be a lot like Breath of the Wild, especially at the beginning, has a really good like opening tutorial section and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like that is less the case for this one.
Oh, fun.
So we'll see. Anyway, I think that's about all I've got.
All right. Well, Petty, it's your go.
Well, most of the week was fine up until Saturday when I had a catastrophic chair failure. That was
Nice.
fun. What were you saying, Adam?
Like a catastrophic chair failure.
The actual base broke, and I like fell forward into my
Yeah,
desk.
the part that it looked like you showed the picture, like the part that attaches the
Gas piston to the base of the chair. Yeah,
yeah.
that actually catastrophically failed, and my shoulder's still a little sore from hitting my desk, but obviously not as bad as it was when I did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to hop on Amazon and order a new chair, which was $150 I was not wanting to spend, but here we are. And the chair was supposed to be here Monday in time for us to do reviews, but Amazon decided they didn't want to deliver it. So yeah, that's fun. And Sunday was mine and my sister's birthday. We are now older.
Yeah, you don't get to say you're old when you're the youngest one around.
I mean, I kind of do, because I do have to walk with a cane. So there is that.
Okay,
And
there's old and there's busted. You can be both. But you don't have to be both.
yeah, like I got canes, I got knee braces. Oh me, I'm falling apart. And then I got some actually decent news yesterday. We're going to be going forward with seeing about getting me the baclofen pump. So that's going to happen sometime July or August. Usually this whole process is two separate things, where they first do the pump trial, which is kind of like a spinal tap where they inject the baclofen directly into your spine,
Ooh.
and then you spend a whole, like, most of a day doing various stuff with physical therapy to, see how your muscles react, if they loosen properly, if they work properly with the baclofen, especially with cerebral palsy. There are some times where the muscles with as much baclofen as they start with may not want to work correctly, so they kind of need to see where the dosage needs to be with that. And then there's a second one where they do the actual operation to put in the pump. What they want to do with me is the trial in the morning, and then that afternoon actually put in the pump. Since I already take oral baclofen, they know I'm not allergic to it for obvious reasons. So the morning is just to make sure they can get the right dose dialed in and stuff. And yeah, so that's going to be fun. It's going to be, I guess, a 2-day adventure because they're going to keep me overnight.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I'm just waiting for scheduling to get back to me on when they want to actually do this. They said they were scheduling into late July, early August. It might affect the show. It really depends on what slots they have open at the hospital. And, how I'm feeling afterwards. I may be out for that week. I may, it may be a Thursday and I may be good to go by Sunday. I don't know. It's one of those things we'll find out. I guess in the meantime, we can make sure Gullix is good to stream.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, just in case. Like, I don't figure I would be out for more than a show, just because it's not anywhere near as bad as what they had to do for my knee.
Mm-hmm.
And then, instead of having to go to the big city, like, once every 2 months for the Botox injections in my legs, it would be once every 6 months to get the pump refilled, which is a hell of a lot less on gas.
Oh yeah.
Because to my doctor's office is about a 2-hour round trip. So yeah, that's not fun. And then as far as like what I got for my birthday, not a whole lot. I did get the Encyclopedia Eorzeas, the Final Fantasy XIV lore books.
Neat.
Indeed. And I also got some Digimon cards. And I ended up getting myself a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Switch case, because this one is a lot tougher than the case we had before.
Like
So,
a case for on the system or like a carrying case?
Carrying case.
Okay, yeah. I got one of the ones when Breath of the Wild came out that looks like a Sheikah slate.
Yeah. I was looking for one of those, but at the same time, there was just this one that has, like, the cover design on it for, like, $9 at Walmart, so I was like,
Oh yeah.
fuck yeah, let's just take that. Because I
I
think
still
they...
haven't actually pre-ordered Tears of the Kingdom. I'm really hoping I can get one of the collector's editions.
Yeah. I was going to see about getting the, limited edition Switch, but since I had to, buy a chair, that's not happening.
Foolish office furniture horning in on.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it'd be different if I didn't have back problems too and could, just sit in like a regular hard chair.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I tried that. That was painful. 0 out of 10, would not recommend. And yeah, I think that's it from me.
Okay, I guess it's my go.
Mm-hmm.
See, my news is, I don't know, similar to Golix's actually, though maybe not
Oh,
as
I'm sorry
close.
to hear that.
Well, yeah, my uncle suffered a stroke last Thursday from a heart clot.
Oof.
Yeah, he's also been having problems with an arrhythmic beating. So he had an operation to situate that, and the day after, apparently, that's when the clot developed and shot up.
Apparently, if it's anything like what my dad had, it's like when not your whole heart, but like the atria at the top are not beating as regularly as the bottom parts.
Yeah.
Stuff can like circulate around and not get pushed through at the right speed, and that's when it clots up.
Yeah, that's apparently what happened. Like, the good news is, uh, yeah, he's up and about. He's got all of his mental faculties. Um, aside from some slurring, um, and he's going to be seeing a language coach at the hospital for that. Um, thankfully, he hasn't lost any the use of any limbs or um, anything like that. So, um, as far as strokes go, he's in really good condition.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well, that's good to hear.
um, though it wasn't exact, it's like hop, skip, and a jump to see it, since he lives like 5.5 hours away.
Yeah, it's a bit different when it's your uncle who lives a distance away than it's when your dad who lives with you.
Yeah, I know I'm skipping over some details, but um, the it's probably for the best to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
And he also can't drive currently. Um, not a, I don't think I was told exactly why. Um, like, could be something to do with a side of his body or whatever. Um, you know, like, there was damage, just not as extensive as first thought. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, that's my news for the week. It's kind of been bad tidings all around. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, with that in mind, we shall move to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Rick from the D-pad once again.
Hello. Howdy, howdy.
Hi. Oh, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty well, actually. I fled the country. That was my bad week.
Like,
I mean, depending on where you went.
This-
and why you fled?
no,
Like,
Oh no, go ahead.
I mean, just saying, like, yeah, fleeing the country could indicate a bad time.
No, it's very, very true. Yeah, no, the we so my girlfriend Sarah and I have had a vacation kind of planned out for a while now, and it happened to coincide with like the culmination of like just a super busy, chaotic start to the year, uh, especially like the last month or so. So it's just like it's a chance to get away, feeling good about it. We're actually coming home tomorrow. We have to. We're waking up at like 6 in the morning to catch our flight. So that's less than great, but it's been a nice chance to catch my breath that I don't really afford myself too often. So feeling pretty good there.
How long has the break been?
So let's see. So the vacation itself has been about a week, but the break. So basically, I guess to give some context. So over at the D-pad, we had kind of a back-to-back pair of like really big events. The last weekend of March, we actually hosted our very first panel at PAX East. We had a game show called U Game, hosted by myself and Jeff Hook, one of the other members of the channel. We had six panelists, 3 and 3 on each side, half of which were other members of the D-pad. We also had another channel, Ape Arcade, as well as Nintendo Fangirl join as contestants. Really great time. Super chaotic and stressful pulling all that stuff together. There were a lot of things going on at the very last second. And normally that would have been a great chance afterwards to kind of catch my breath, except the next weekend after that was so every year, the first weekend of April, basically, we do a 24-hour marathon stream as kind of an anniversary special. And this year was our 12th anniversary. We did a 100% run of both Super Mario 64 and Banjo Kazooie back to back. And of course, with that being a 24-hour marathon stream, not a lot of sleep was had that weekend, already coming off of a really stressful week, couple weeks before that. So I kind of promised myself that in the short term after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to like at least this first week, I just got to like take this week basically off. I'll post a couple things, some stuff that like we really shouldn't leave hanging, like where we started playing Resident Evil 4, the remake, and we're like, okay, we can't be like leaving that just hanging for a long time, so we should keep that going. And Sonic Frontiers had just put out their Sight, Sound, and Speed DLC, so I was like, okay, that's something I can like do by myself after work or something and put some videos up. Really like low key stuff. And then I made the mistake of deciding I was going to like finish 100%ing the save file of Breath of the Wild that we had from 6 years ago. And not that I wasn't expecting it to take a long time, but I think I'm at like 75% map completion after God 12 or 13 streams, something like that.
And the map
So that
completion is way less, for lack of a better term, mapped out than even the Koroks and stuff.
Yeah, like so the Korok seeds, there's a list for those. That's like not too bad. The shrines even easier. There's literally like like a seventh or an eighth as many of them, so like not too terrible. And then you can use them to warp. It's great. The real problem is one that I have yet to like really actually address in those streams yet, which is to get 100% map completion, you also have to discover areas. Like you have to walk into or onto various landmarks and areas in order for it to register.
Yeah,
And
when you
each
walk
of
up to an
those,
area and the name of the thing pops up at the top of the screen, the game
yeah,
keeps track of those.
yeah.
Which ones
And
you've seen.
the funniest thing to me is so like, Horse Bridge, whatever the hell the Horse Bridge is, has exactly as much map completion weighting as a Korok seed, which has the same weighting as a shrine, which has the same weighting as beating a Ganon Blight. All of those things are exactly the same amount, 0.08% of the whole thing, which is like staggering to me that they didn't weight those in any way. They just went, oh, we have like 1,200 things between all of those together. Yeah, we'll just all of those will be worth an equal amount. That's fine. So 1 week kind of became a couple weeks, and I was like, I'm just gonna ride it out till this vacation, and then we're gonna hit the ground running when we come back. We got a weekend of recording coming up this weekend, and then next weekend we're planning kind of a well. So the biggest bummer of the release date for Tears of the Kingdom. So I bought a bunch of new microphones that are like on their way to to our apartment right now, just so that we have enough in case we get like overrun with folks. But we invited basically anybody who wanted to be involved in that from the channel. And the problem is Sunday is Mother's Day for that weekend. So
At
there's
which point, many
definitely
people will have other plans.
yeah, exactly. And not to mention, unfortunately, so that Saturday in our town, that like half of the channel lives kind of scattered throughout that town. We have an event called Porch Fest, which is like a big like folk festival kind of thing throughout town. CJ usually like does stuff for that because he's in I think two bands with folks who also live in town. They like to perform on that day. So like so many extra little complications, and we're just like, oh god, this is gonna be rough. I'm honestly tempted to try inviting people out for like that Friday instead, just in case that works out better. But I'm so psyched. That last trailer, I didn't look at it the day it came out, but literally the next day I was like, I should look. I should look. It couldn't be that big of a spoiler if I look, and like nothing was really spoiled for me. I thought I spoiled something, but then folks that I mentioned it to clarified something, and I'm like, oh, okay, so not a spoiler then, cool. And I don't have a TikTok, I kind of stayed away from that for a long time because I've been kind of like I've been a little leery about it just in general. But very nearly, and I'm still kind of considering it when I get back. Very nearly opened an account just to bust out a saxophone and like put together a TikTok for like duets and stuff like that. That is that fucking sick. I think it's a swona is the name of the instrument. It's like a Chinese wind instrument, but it sounds very similar to like an alto or tenor saxophone or maybe a soprano
Mhm.
saxophone. And it's just like, oh my god, I don't know the last time I've heard a sound like that. Just like an overall like musical feeling like that in a trailer. Like they Nintendo knows how the hell to make a good ass Zelda trailer.
Yeah, this
I
this
was
w- th- that trailer was the equivalent of the like hype slash story trailer that they did for Breath of the Wild, and I
oh
think they did a good
absolutely.
job of it, especially with like not revealing stuff that they didn't. There was a lot of like cool. Oh, hey, cool. What is that? But not a whole lot
Mm-mm.
of like giving you the context for it to count as much of a spoiler.
Exactly. Like one of my big problems. So I still really like Pokemon. I still get into the new releases. I've been more into it lately than I was a few years back. I think Scarlet and Violet felt like a really huge step back in the right direction in terms of like how to make it interesting. But my biggest problem with Pokemon is they cannot stop themselves from revealing and over revealing as much as they possibly can in the run up to release day. But like, granted, their sales are always like astronomical. They have nothing to worry about in terms of spoilers. But like, it makes it so hard for me as a fan of the series to get into it when it's like, cool. I see the original trailer, and then I will keep an eye out for the starter announcements, and then I like tune out as hard as I can because like they just give up so much info, and it's like I want to be surprised, you know. Zelda,
Hmm.
you don't have to worry about that too much. They're really good at like keeping those tight, keeping the trailers like really intriguing. There's that lizard, like Lizalfos, Dinalfos person that we know nothing about, as far as I'm aware. The last time I think a Zelda trailer has gotten me this specifically jazzed up, like Breath of the Wild did for sure, but I was at the Nintendo World Store in New York, E3. Oh God, like 2006, 2007, something like that. Whenever they put up the big Twilight Princess reveal trailer, and that people went completely ballistic with that trailer because like previously we had Ocarina of Time, we had Majora's Mask, which were incredible games, but something about seeing a version of Link where he didn't look like a better than Lara Croft, but like still kind of blocky in some ways, advancing to like, oh, this is like a legit really good looking model of Link, and all of this huge bombastic action and like horseback stuff, like really good trailer. I think this is like right up there with it. It might even beat it. I don't know.
Hmm. So yeah,
Sorry, I
sorry,
went
Adam.
off for like a while there.
No, it's fine. Adam, did you have something you were going
No,
with?
no. That just ended really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, went
So
on and on, just stopped.
Hmm.
the timer was counting down in my head, and I hit zero. I was like, oh, just gotta get in. Done. There we go.
So yeah,
Anyway,
last time we had you on was quite a while ago. So you've made
Many
quite a bit
moons,
of
yeah.
progress in terms of the completing, or at least getting much further in a lot of the long-term projects on the D-pad. Although you've also started some new ones.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's always, the algorithm never sleeps. So apparently neither can I.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when. I don't know when specifically I was on it. I don't know if you remember what year that was. That was a little while back.
I think it was
Um,
back when Fully Charged was still in
oh wow.
going,
Okay, so that would have been like 2017, 2018, somewhere around there.
something
Or I
like
guess that
that.
might have been like 2018, 2019. But yeah, a couple of years back. Yeah, a lot has happened since then for like all of our. So yeah, anybody who's not familiar with us or didn't catch us last time, we do our bread and butter on the D-pad for a long time has been franchise plays. Actually, almost for 10 years now. This August is the 10-year anniversary of our first one of those, the Legendary Let's Play. But yeah, I think at the time we were either about to start or maybe had just started our third legendary Let's Play segment. We called it A Terrible Fate. It was basically, so like when we first did the legendary Let's Play, we had like, all right, we're going to play all of like the core games in the franchise. And that was a good time. And we got to play some new ones that were coming out too. And then we kind of had a lull period where like, okay, we did those, we cooled off, we were playing like Ocarina 3D, Majora 3D. I think Triforce Heroes came out around then. I think I'm trying to remember. There were a few that came out then, but like then Breath of the Wild came out in the midst of that, and we played through that. Oh God, about 140 episodes. It was about 75 hours, give or take, of video for that. It was a huge undertaking. And around the time we were wrapping that up, I was like, we really left a lot of games on the table. Like they're not the big popular ones necessarily, but like there's still some stuff there. And like I was curious
Because
about
it
the
was one of your
CDI
it was one of
games.
your first franchise plays, and you hadn't gone to the extreme completionist levels of some of the other ones.
Exactly. Yeah. For our first one, the idea was like we're just going to do the core games, and in true D-pad fashion, we wildly underestimated how long it would take. Not like to a crazy degree. I think we thought it was going to be like somewhere between like 8 to 12 months. Wound up being 16 months, which isn't like a horrible like underestimate. But then immediately after that, we started doing like the Mega Let's Play for all the Mega Man games, and for that we were like, we're going to do all of them, every single one. The
You
justification
did
being, well,
3 Tiger Electronics games.
we did, yes. Mega Man 2 and 3 as the little like standard handheld electronic games. And then I was really lucky to have found myself in the position where I could get Mega Man, I think it was 2, uh, as an LCD wristwatch, like a Tiger Electronics LCD wristwatch. And when I found it just I on a whim was looking for it. Like literally, I think it was right at the start of the pandemic. And I was like, oh, I should, there's a chance I'm going to be recording by myself for a while. I should find some stuff that I can do myself. And that was one of the things I was like, I'll take a look. And I found it on eBay and I bought it. And when it came in, I looked at it, I was like, wait a second. And I realized that the packaging had like a really distinguishing like cut on it. Like it was kind of cut in a really interesting way. And I realized that every image that I have seen of this wristwatch game on the internet was this package with this wristwatch. And I was like, oh, I may have something way rarer than I realize. And I did some
They
digging.
actually
I
only
looked up.
produced one.
Yeah, well, like what shocked me is that there was nothing for it on YouTube. Nobody had done anything with it on YouTube, which I thought like that can't be right. There has to be. But I spent like days trying to find any other person who had covered it, and nobody had. I'm like, I need to like make this a thing. Like I put together like some little banners for like advert like marketing and stuff, and being like, hey, probably YouTube's first ever footage of this, I guess, really rare thing. And we got a couple comments from like one or two people who were like, "Oh my god, I have one of these in storage. I should pull that out too." It's like, "Yes, please take that." Like I was in discussion with someone for a while about figuring out ways to preserve it. I guess like essentially what the idea was going to be. We kind of fell out of touch and we didn't get a chance to pick back up on it. But the idea was I ship it to them, and they were going to like fully like dismantle it, I guess, and kind of. There are ways that you can sort of copy in some ways or decompile like the chips in those, and essentially using that to be able to like recreate that, like build it from scratch essentially, so that we can make a digitized version of that, so that anybody who wanted to could play this thing, which I think is super cool. It's interesting. I like rare games. I like collecting a few of them, but like I feel like there's this really sort of kind of toxic attitude, I guess, when it comes to game collection a lot of times, where someone will have like a really rare, either like a prototype or a game that they only produced 100 of them because it was like messed up, or it got canceled but a shipment made it out or whatever, and they get really protective of it, and they're like, well, I bought this thing for a lot of money, and if I share it with someone who can then make like a ROM or something, well then this isn't worth anything, and it's not, then I have no reason to have it. And it's like that's so not the point. Like,
Yeah, clearly the best way to preserve this game is to seal it in a solid block of plastic mentality.
right, like what it if you have the only copy of a thing and you refuse to let anyone else have a chance to try that out, it is worthless. It's not worth anything at that point. Like there's no value
Really a
to it
game unless you
if
can play it.
exactly. That's like I get to a certain extent why there's folks who do like like rare action figure collection or even video game collection to extent where it's like still in the box. And there's a certain amount of like, okay, but part of the interest here is the fact that it's still like in its original packaging and it looks nice with that or whatever. But it's like, okay, cool. There's a difference between I have a copy of Super Mario World in its original box versus I have a copy of Chrono Trigger Radiant Radical Dreamers on an actual cartridge, but I refuse to let anybody get anywhere near it. Like, and it bums me out when I see people get like super defensive about um, kind of it's sort of an exclusionary attitude when it comes to like rare games and a really anti-preservation sort of attitude, which is a bummer, especially because like we're reaching a point now in the 2020s where a lot of those old cartridge games from like the NES and Genesis, Super Nintendo, all those that early like first couple generations, the Game Boy too, anything with an internal battery is starting like they're all starting to fail, right? Like those batteries
Hmm.
have essentially a shelf life and there's only so long that they can last and work. So now you have a physical game that can't save unless you replace the battery, which you can do. But then there's also fears about, some of them have batteries that just kind of they fault and like not blow up, like that sounds dramatic, but like it'll kind of burst and it might actually wreck the game altogether. Like so the longer we go without preserving this stuff, the harder it's going to be for people to actually have a chance to play these games. And it's not helped by like this is maybe stepping into a bear trap. I get to an extent why Nintendo gets really weird about like ROM sites and things like that. Like I get it. I don't love it, but I get how that decision gets made. But then when it comes to preservation stuff, they keep that same like draconian attitude about it. And it's like you're really hurting yourself here. Like the 3DS and Wii U eShops are now down. So like the only way to play hundreds of these games is to pirate them. And like, I hesitate to just like openly endorse piracy, that kind of thing. But like, there comes a point where it's like, okay, Nintendo, if you want to tell people they can't have access to this, like they can't share this game for free, then you really need to allow us to buy it still. Like you
Yeah,
can't
it's
not offer
different
it.
saying you can't have this because we want to sell it to you. But they're at like you can't have this because we might at some point in the future want to sell it to you,
Exactly.
and then
It's
they
like
don't.
yeah, it's like I get why, a website with a ROM for Breath of the Wild, yeah, take the shit down. Like I get it. That's fine. I totally understand that. But if it's like if it's a website that happens to have a ROM of like I can't even think of like a good example right now.
There was an
Um
old 3DS game I kind of like. I think it was like Liberation Maiden,
okay, yeah.
and that was
And it's like
eShop only. Like I can't get that
mhm,
anywhere else. It never made it to cartridge. So
Wasn't
exactly.
wasn't there a Castlevania game that was like DSiWare or something?
WiiWare,
Oh, there might have
WiiWare,
been.
yeah,
Rebirth.
WiiWare, okay.
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
talk to
it was like a really decent. It was what the Adventure Rebirth,
I
and it
Something
think
like
was
yeah, I
that.
a
think it was like a remake, like a remastering of like an old I think
the
it was kind
Game
of
Boy
boy.
ones, which were absolutely terrible.
yeah.
And
The
the
first one.
rebirth versions made them actually okay.
Okay, all right, nice. Yeah, the 2-3 days leading up to the end of those eShops, I was fervently just dumping money into my account to try and download as many of those as I could.
Did you
Yeah.
see what the completionist did?
I
That
haven't actually
crazy
watched his
bastard.
video, but wasn't it something like $10,000?
No,
It was a
20.
ridiculous amount. Well,
20.
the thing
Oh my
is that
god.
it kept going up because it was like first you have to. They saved some money by buying the cards for currency in bulk, but then
Oh yeah.
Nintendo has that dumb thing where you can only have a certain amount of, well, not totally dumb considering it's kids are allowed to use it, but where
Yep.
you can only put a certain amount of money on your account at once.
Yeah, it was somewhere in the ballpark of like $250 because I
Mhm.
definitely ran into that at one point.
Uh-huh.
Because I was adding like $80 at a time. It was acting weird when I tried to add 100 at a time, but if I added 80, it was fine. It was very strange.
Mhm.
But anytime I got near 250, it was like, oh, sorry, can't be adding any more there. It's like, fine, I will now tediously be downloading stuff to my 3DS that barely keeps its internet connection anymore. I'm hoping that the Switch 2 or whatever they do next, I'm not expecting it, but it'd be nice if it had DS or 3DS compatibility with it. Like honestly, all it would take, put a kickstand on the side and just sit it up like that. You got your two controllers, your
Mhm.
Joy Cons. It's like there you go. You have a vertical layout that works great for 2-screen setups. But I don't know.
Something. The 2DS was already one screen. You literally have the protocols for it.
Might
Right?
need a little
It's
bit more hardware power or something, but who knows?
that's the thing, right? And it's like that's why, like, with a Switch 2 or something, I would hope, if nothing else, I would hope to at least see like a Nintendo DS Online style situation, the way they've done with like everything through the N64.
Mhm.
Because now we're in an era where the DS, the 3DS are like in this void where they just kind of don't exist. Because like up to the Game Boy Advance gets a lot of support from Nintendo, and the old consoles that were all cartridge based get a lot of love from Nintendo. But like the GameCube, the Wii, the Wii U, and the DS, 3DS are all like just floating out in space by themselves.
Yep.
Rest in peace, Wii
And
U.
unfortunately, a lot of the
Yeah.
games on them, or a lot of the bigger named or quote unquote better later games on them, have been like re-released on other things or on PC. But then when they
Yeah.
do that, how well it actually translates varies.
Where's my re-release
Yeah.
of Xenoblade Chronicle X, Nintendo?
Oh man. I still remember we have a copy of Zombie U, and I remember that being like legitimately, like I wasn't huge on the game itself, but I thought the way they did the menu on your bottom screen while you were doing stuff on the main screen, like this is pretty rad. I actually kind of dig this. And then like almost nobody used it like that. And it's like, okay, well,
It was
if
also
no one's
really
gonna
good for
try,
asymmetric gameplay,
it
which again,
was.
very few things used.
Yeah,
And I really
it's
think that the benefits of the dual screen for menus on handhelds is also
yes. Yep.
underestimated.
It's weird. Like Nintendo, their bread and butter has definitely been like trying to come up with creative ways to make new forms of gameplay. And like with the Wii, they absolutely struck gold with that in such a ridiculous way. Like it's still, I think, the third or fourth best selling console of all time. I think the Switch like just passed it pretty recently. Um, and then the Wii U comes around, and they're like, okay, so now we've got this asymmetric gameplay. We've got two screens. You can even play it, sitting there on your couch with a single screen if you want to do that. Which it's funny to see that Sony is now doing that with its new, you know, whatever their third like PlayStation portable style thing is going to be, is basically just a Wii U gamepad, which is fine to be clear, but like it's just funny that it's like this brand new idea, and it's like this is a 10-year-old idea from
Hmm.
Nintendo from a system that did not do well. So
Yeah,
good luck.
and part of the reason it didn't well is that they did not entirely make it clear that the gamepad was not just an add-on for the original Wii.
Oh my
Yeah,
fucking
that's
god.
classic Nintendo problem. They had the same issue apparently with the Super NES. There were
Mhm.
people who just thought that it was like a better NES, but you could still play the old one with the new games. And it's like, no, 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 no. This is a
It,
different thing.
and the Game
That
Boy
that
did
was
not
that
help
was
that.
that was so early back in console generations, like that the idea of a generation was different.
Mhm.
Like a lot of like
Yep.
gaming computers were iterative, so you could still play the old ones.
Yeah, I think the for a lot of folks, either the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis were the first real like generational consoles that anybody had. Because like with the Atari, right? There was the Atari 2600, and then they released the Atari 5200, which was the way more like popular edition, I guess. But it played all the old ones just fine, and they had new ones that came out, and like all of them still could play, I believe, on both consoles. But the 5200 was just like a little sturdier, and it had, I think, it had built-in, more multiplayer kind of stuff going on and all of that. And then they did the Atari 7800, and that also could still play everything from before. So if you were someone coming from the 80s, you're looking at this and going, oh, yeah, so Atari did this before, right? So the Super NES can play NES games, right? And it's like, not so much. Maybe not super helped by the fact that for the handhelds, they did do that. Because like the Game Boy Color could play classic games, Game Boy Advance could play everything back to the Game Boy. DS could play Game Boy Advance games. Like they kept that going for a really long time.
Yeah, until the Switch, they were pretty good at at least one step back. And the Wii
Exactly.
U could play Wii games.
Yep.
Uh, but before that, you ran into a bit of a more difficult hardware factor.
Yeah, I think Sony has been the first to like really try to address that. Because going into the PS3 era, so the PlayStation 2 had back compatibility with the PS1, which is great. PS3 on launch had, I don't think, any real backwards compatibility
No,
with
it did
PS2,
It
and
had
like,
because
all the backwards
it
compatibility
had a PS2 built in.
and a
okay.
PS1.
I couldn't remember if it was like at the start they didn't, and then they released the model that did, or vice versa. But
Vice
Yeah,
versa,
okay,
they dropped it.
one of the first
gotcha.
the PS3 Slim didn't have the
Yeah.
old hardware, so it only had like some PS, or
Actually, I
was it
think
pretty
it was.
good PS1 compatibility?
It still has PS1 compatibility through the board. It's just they dropped the PS2 Emotion engine.
Right.
Okay, all right. And I think for the PS4, that was the one where they were like, "Oh, we've changed our entire hardware structure, so we can't do backwards
Yeah.
compatibility like at
Also,
all."
please buy the version of our console that does not have a physical disk drive.
Oh yeah, that was a ballsy move,
I think that was
especially
Microsoft
considering.
at that time. Like, it was a PS5 that they had the disc driveless console.
Well,
Was
I
it?
that
want to
makes
I
say,
could
more
be
sense
misremembering, but
now.
still.
Yeah.
well, there was in the early 2010s. I don't remember the name of it. It might have literally been called the Phantom, but there was a really infamous case of a like third party video game console that was being made where the premise was that it was a completely like diskless, it was totally digital download, and you were going to have to go through their own like private marketplace for all that stuff, and like there was a lot of hesitant like, okay, this could work, but even the big names aren't doing this, so why would you do that?
Hmm.
And like it just vanished before it actually got released,
There have
only
been
to
a
be
few
supplanted by the
things.
Ouya.
Yeah, let's say the Ouya is the big thing with that.
You know, Nvidia Shield, I think, did the same thing. Like they had a
Shield,
download
yeah, though they're
so
actually tapping the Play Store now, at least, so there is that.
okay. Yeah, that's definitely like a little better at that point. It's like, okay, we have an established thing that we can like work with as opposed to just our own like from the ground up.
Hmm.
I'm curious to see. Apparently, Polymega, the company that makes, well, I guess that makes Polymega, I guess you could call it like a competitor with like the Retron, kind of retro game system emulators. I'm really not sure what to even call them, but they take a number of different cartridges and things, and you can play them, all on one system kind of deal. The Polymega is more of a disc-based solution, but they do have a couple cartridge things, and apparently they're opening a Polymega store app inside of the thing, which God knows what that is going to be. But
Yeah, well, what will they sell?
that's the real question. If anything, I think that them trying to do digital stuff is them trying to fix the fact that anytime you buy something from them, it takes like 2 or 3 years to arrive. Uh, like I
Conservatively.
haven't had a chance. Yeah, exactly. I haven't tried it. I haven't tried mine out yet.
So you did
But
actually end up getting it. That's good.
I did. Yeah, I got the like complete. I was gonna say module, like they're all modules, but there was like a whole package version that had all of the modules at the time. I've pre-ordered the Ultra model module as well, the one that does N64 games. And that I paid for back in December, and it looks like those are going to start shipping sometime this summer. It's like, okay, that's less insane. But there was definitely a point where it was like, okay, guys, I ordered the base module like 2 years ago. What is happening?
Yeah, I
And
definitely
like,
remember there was a long while where it occasionally came up as, well, this is a thing that has, like, allegedly a few of the people who have ordered it have at least been able to see an actual unit through solid glass that they couldn't touch or something.
yeah, it got to a like I totally get that there were supply chain issues. There was like I think they were getting like their chips from like Myanmar or something, which was going through like a huge like political upheaval, like like revolution style thing. It's like, okay, yeah,
Still is a bit.
that's still, yeah, that's a little bit of a tricky one there for sure. But then there was a point where people were seeing the Polymega in like Walmart, like in stores who had themselves pre-ordered it and been told it was going to be like probably another year, and it's like, wait, what is happening here? So very, very strange. I hope that they got that stuff kind of ironed out in the time since, because that was definitely a rough go for a while.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, where were we?
In the beginning, wait, no, hold on.
Yeah.
Kind of got lost there.
Well, yeah, we started talking about the progress on the franchise play. So,
Oh yeah.
what new stuff have you been working on?
Let's see. So, I mean, obviously, the legendary Let's Play returns for Tears of the Kingdom,
Mhm.
and with my 100%ing of Breath of the Wild. The Mega Let's Play has been kind of on a bit of a hiatus over the start of the year. There's just been so much chaos, but we are
Yeah, aren't
coming
we
back.
like at this point like the start of this break late for being 2 weeks late for being a month late for being a week
Something
late
like
for
that.
the beginning of
Yeah.
Star Force 3?
More or less, yeah. We we
Which,
we have about a month of Star Force episodes already recorded and ready to go. I had a project that I was working on as a counterpart on the weekday side, which is like the stuff that's all like non-Battle Network, non-Star Force. And at this point, it's like, okay, I'll give myself one more week, and if not, then we're just gonna like continue and move on until that one's ready. But there's just been like so many other things that it's been like, okay, you know what? If this sits, but we're putting out these other four things, then like, all right, that's not too bad. The
yeah, you're not.
Supersonic
It's
Let's
it's not like
Play.
you're not putting stuff out. It's just
Oh yeah, yeah.
Star Force 3 is the only actual Mega Man game that currently exists that you haven't done yet, I
It
believe.
is it is the only one left, to my knowledge, because I like it really it as was kind of the trick when it came to the post game of the Mega Let's Play. Like, it does come down a little bit to how you count certain games, but like as far as like undeniable Mega Man games, yeah, Star Force 3 is the last one left that we have not touched. And boy, oh boy, yeah, we've recorded about 5 to 6 hours of that so far, and the beginning of that game is a ride. There's a lot going on right away. So that'll be interesting to see how other people react to our own reactions to all of this, because there's a lot happening there.
Yeah, I
uh
think that 3 is by far the best of the Star Force games, but
so far
uh
I've been in.
it's a bit dense.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think only at the 5-ish hour mark did we actually beat our first. Oh no, I think we've beaten two bosses. I think we're up to. No, I think we've only done one. Oh my god. I forget now. We're either through one or two bosses, but either way, when we got through the first one, I made a note of like how long we had been playing for. I was like, wow, there's a lot happening here. Like we're gonna be at this for a while, probably.
Hmm.
But I'm excited. I'm excited to get into it. It's nice to have one last mystery before the franchise is through. Though by the same token, like we have a really good habit of being in the wrapping up point of these things right as a new game is about to drop.
Yep.
It happened to us with Mega Man 11. It happened to us with Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Trying to remember if it trying to think if it happened with Zelda at all. I think we were. Oh, I think Breath of the Wild got announced around the time we were wrapping up the original Legendary Let's Play. So we were just
Yeah.
kind of like, all right, well, that's obviously coming at some point. Yeah, I think that was around the same time, because I recall where I was working at the time, and that would have been around then. So like, yeah, it was always just like, okay, there's this our one last hurrah on the horizon. um, with Sonic, we are somewhere in the ballpark of like the maybe 60% mark of this absurdly long series. Uh,
And very close to the cusp of, oh hey, an RPG. We totally asked for this.
yeah, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be quite the change of pace. We are a few games away from Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood, which I know almost nothing about. I What I
Internal
do know about
screaming
it.
from the Sonic fan in the room.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the biggest things that most people know
Run.
about that are things that have nothing to do with the game itself and everything to
exactly.
do about the legal fallout of certain choices in depictions of echidna culture.
Yes, yeah, that's about 90% of what I know about that game is no one's favorite artist or human drawer of animals, and his
Can we?
super frivolous lawsuit that he somehow managed to like fall ass backwards into not losing, which is its own whole thing. I am probably going to do a video on it because it's so like wild of a story, uh, and it spans like decades too. It's like ridiculous, but um, yeah, we have wrapped up for all intents and purposes the Dreamy Let's Play. We did a lot of Kirby. We started playing Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, which I think we finished Kirby in the Forgotten Land months back at this point.
Hmm.
But I've been doing my Nightmare in the Dreamy Let's Play streams of like 100%ing these games because like Kirby was all the Dreamy Let's Play was always meant to be kind of like the lighter fare out of everything we did, where it's like, yep, it's a Kirby game. We're gonna play it at our own pace. We're gonna breeze through stuff, and like we're not gonna stress too much about like full completion of things because this is meant to be kind of the easy stuff, like or rather just like the more relaxing of all of these, which wasn't always the case, but it was nice to have like a lighter thing there. And now the nightmare streams are me taking all of those harder elements of and going like, okay, we're actually gonna push through and do all of the things. Right now, I'm neck deep in Kirby Air Ride, which has been an interesting go. I definitely am going to have a couple weekend streams where I can get a second player with their
Yeah,
hands on the
it's
controller because
much less awful to get some of those things in multiplayer than
oh totally,
single.
yeah. Well, honestly, in the city, there are a few of those that strike me as essentially being impossible unless you rig it yourself. Uh, there are ones where it's like, oh, you have to have all four Kirby's need to hop off their vehicles at the same time. It's like that will literally never happen organically. Like never, ever, ever is that going to happen just by accident.
Yeah,
Like
because it's
that has
intended to
to
be
be
like a party type game, not a.
exactly. You go, all right, 3, 2, 1, hop off, and like, there's one that's like, oh, end the match with all four players on rails, and it's like, not impossible, but really ridiculously low odds. Like,
Hmm.
so that's going to be its own whole thing, and we're doing Resident Evil. We're actually getting like kind of close to the end of that. We're doing Resident Evil 4 remake, and we've got like Resident Evil 5 and 6. I think we have another Revelations game that we're going to do. I don't know how much else we have besides that.
Because you already
And
did
now we're
7 and
even
8 when they came out.
exactly. And presumably Resident Evil 9 is going to get
Well,
announced sometime in the next like year-ish, and we're going to play
how
that when it
many
comes out, obviously.
spin-offs have you covered?
How many what?
How many spin-offs have you
Uh
covered?
oh, of Resident Evil?
Uh-huh.
Let's see. So we've already done Revelations 1. We did Umbrella Chronicles and Dark Side Chronicles. We played around with Resident Evil 2 for the Tiger Gamecom. Surprisingly good game. I was genuinely shocked that was actually like a legit decent game. Uh, Depending on what we're calling spin-offs, we did do Code Veronica, aka the actual Resident Evil 3. Uh, and Resident Evil Zero as well. I don't know if that like qualifies as like a spin-off per se. Uh, oh boy, I'm trying to think. I know CJ played Resident Evil Dead Aim for one of our well, actually two technically of our anniversary streams back to back. Uh, that might be all of them. I feel like I might be forgetting one. But we've done a decent number of them. CJ was more feeling like the core series for the most part, with a couple of the like really like neighboring ones that kind of like add to the story there. So that's where you
Yeah.
get like the Chronicles games and Revelations games and
The
those.
CJ is definitely co-pilot at least for the Resident Evil stuff, so he
Oh
also
yeah, he
has
is.
veto power on, for example, trying to perfectly complete the mercenary mode in 8 or any of
Oh,
those
for
things that
sure.
were
Yeah, no. CJ
extremely
is.
unpleasant.
Yeah,
That would
CJ is
explain
for.
the lack of things like Raccoon City,
Say that again.
Resident Evil Raccoon City, and the
So,
like.
you refer so the movie Welcome to Raccoon City, or
No. The actual game Raccoon City.
oh, I don't know if I'm familiar with that one.
Oh no,
Uh,
you may have added to
oh
the
no.
workload.
Oh,
Oh
he's
no, I
missing
mean,
many a spin-off here.
Mhm.
I'm sure
Like,
that there are a ton that we didn't wind
Operation
up getting
Raccoon
into.
City?
yeah, that's the one.
Okay, Operation Records. That does sound more familiar.
So it
Uh,
looks like it was a 2012 release.
Uh-huh. And
oh
then
yeah, like a squad game. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that they did like a follow-up or a sequel to that. Like
Interesting.
yeah. And then there was the light gun games in the PlayStation 1, the gun survivor games.
Oh, yep. Which the Gun Survivor one, I think is what? It's like a series of four games that are like that float in and out of the Resident Evil like canon. I want to
Yeah,
say
like I think
one of the
the
games is like totally unrelated.
well, yeah, I think the third one was Dino Crisis.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
So Survivor, Survivor 2, Code Veronica, Dead Aim, Dino Crisis.
Yeah,
Yep, that sounds about right. Yep.
yeah. And then there's the
Strange,
PlayStation
strange.
2 game with the hard drive that you needed. Yeah.
I don't know on that one.
Resident Evil Outbreak, that's what it was.
Oh, okay. That one also sounds familiar. I don't think we actually did that one. Yeah, Outbreak and Outbreak File 2.
Yeah. And there's
Nice.
Resident Evil Gaiden for the Game Boy Color.
Oh God. Yeah, we had discussed briefly whether or not we were going to try doing that as like almost more of a gag than anything else, but it actually doesn't look half bad. This actually looks like pretty surprisingly good animations in that.
Yeah,
Like they have
it's
like
surprisingly good for the Game Boy Color.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you go to the Wikipedia page for it, they have like a GIF of what happens when you get attacked by a monster, and it straight up looks like there are people who will do like demakes of modern games where you're just like, oh well, the old system couldn't do that, but it's cool that they did it like this. And it's like, oh no, they're just actually doing that on a Game Boy Color. It's kind
Hmm.
of wild.
That's how this thing came about because they were like legitimately trying to do a demake for the first Resident Evil on the Game Boy Color.
Nice.
But that got canceled and this got slotted in as a replacement.
Ah.
So, you know, probably the right call there. Quite honestly,
And get another
like
one that takes place on a boat. It's at
yeah,
least the third one that they have that does that.
mm,
Well,
probably
you know what they say: if you have a boat, you can't have a secret lab in the basement. Oh wait.
Yeah. Oh my god. I could not goddamn believe that.
it's
In was it Revelations, I think. At the end of it there's a
yep.
literally a an evil lab at the very bottom of the ship, and then when you're done with that, you find out that there's a third twin vessel that's already sunken. So you go to a sunken boat's evil lab, and it's like, Jesus Christ, guys. It's
It's
always a
Resident
lab.
it's Resident
Oh,
Evil. If you want intelligence in your survival horror, Silent Hill's over there.
yeah,
That
Jesus.
said, if you equate the phrase revelations with plot twists, they certainly lived up to that.
Yeah, honestly, the
Yeah,
first half of the game seemed super predictable, and then the second half was full of like legitimate, surprising plot twists. Uh, some actual like head turning moments there. Like, whoa, okay, very much didn't see that coming.
Yeah, the first there is another ship twist was actually really well constructed.
Yes, because like it's such a subtle like if you look at it too, they do tell you earlier in the game that like, oh, there was this ship and there was another ship, and you're just kind of like, all right, well, the other ship is just that's nice fluff information, and then you realize later it's like, oh no, both of these ships matter actually. With the like reveal in the bilge or whatever, it's like, oh no, this is they are so much more screwed than they had any idea that they might be.
oh yeah, that's what it was called, Umbrella Corps.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, like
Uh,
yeah, like
yes, okay, I see that one. Yeah.
yeah. Like I said, Capcom likes them some Resident Evil.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely. It's funny that like they really I guess after six there was such like a weird vibe around the franchise that they took some time off to try to like figure out what they wanted to do. They made Revelations 2, they made Umbrella Corps, I don't think either of those really took off, and they were like, we'll try one more swing at the Resident Evil formula, and they kind of took it back to basics in some ways with 7, with like a
They
more survival horror vibe like the older days, and it's like, oh, everyone loved that one. It's like, oh, okay.
well, it's like because they turned Resident Evil 6 into Resident Evil 6.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know a huge amount. Like, I've never played 5 or 6, but I'm very much aware of the transition over time, especially like starting with 4, moving through to 6 of like more run and gun style action
There's a reason why 6 nearly
as a
killed the franchise.
It's also
yeah,
it's also 6's shit.
yeah. That's
Like
what I'm most worried about is like we're gonna get there and it's like, all right, here's the last new game that we've got for a little while, and it's like, oh no. Oof.
Can we go back to playing 7?
You're right. 7, 4, the 2 remake was excellent. We haven't
Even
finished 4
8.
yet, so it's
I
yeah,
forget.
8
Did
was
you guys
also
do the extra thing of 8?
what was it called? Shadows of Rose?
Yeah.
Yes, yes we did. Yeah. That was pretty cool. That was an interesting like retread. There were some weird moments to it that were like a little bit of a choice. But it's also odd too because it's like, okay, we now have canonical stuff that takes place a decade and a half in the future of this franchise. And no matter what happens between now and then, when we actually catch up to like the mid 2030s, that needs to stay accurate until then, unless they just decide like, oh, we're just going to decanonize that.
Or run some things in the timeline further ahead, which is weird because, to my understanding, Resident Evil has been pretty good about having most of the games take place in approximately the year they were released.
Yeah, they like the first batch of games all took place essentially within like the same year. I think it was 1997. But
8.
once they left, or 98, yes, yeah. Once they left Raccoon City, because yeah, July 27th, 98, I think was the main date.
Because
Um,
it's difficult for some reason to write more games taking place in Raccoon City in later years.
yeah, I don't know why that
I
is.
mean,
That's weird.
they literally nuked the place.
I
So
yes,
Yeah.
that's a joke.
Honestly, I would love for the. I'm surprised that they haven't had them like a weird new thing that they have to go investigate in Raccoon City. Like give it like Chernobyl vibes. Like the city is completely obliterated, but something is down
yeah,
there still.
that's probably not very Resident Evil if you
I
will.
guess that's true. No, that's fair. If they wanted to try a spin-off, that would be like really like fertile ground for like a weird different type of game spin-off, like a Returnal type thing or something where it's more of a science angle than like an action or a horror angle.
Yeah, from what
But
I've
like,
heard, the next Resident Evil thing is supposed to be Revelations 3.
yeah. Well, so that the interesting part is apparently, I think I think Village was originally Revelations 3, and then they changed course partway through, and they decided to make what it is now because originally they weren't expecting 7 to be anywhere near as popular as it was, so they had already started developing it like in 2017, and then Resident Evil 7 wound up being enormously popular, and they were like, oh, we absolutely need to like capitalize on that, we have to jump on that now. So they like changed course on it. So now it's the question of like, okay, is there anything of Revelations 3 of those original ideas that they would run with as a Revelations 3? Or are they going to shelve that while they finish out this apparent trilogy? Like, it doesn't have to be a trilogy, but it does have this feeling
Well,
of like finish the fight kind of vibes, right? At the end of Village.
possibly, but keep in mind the next team to have a game is the Resident Evil 3 team, and
Interesting. Yeah.
I,
3 was
I don't.
okay.
Yeah, it's like I don't think they've been assigned Resident Evil 9.
I
Like,
I hope not. Like the 3 remake was okay. It really wasn't. I think 2 was like incredible. 2 was legitimately like a mind-blowingly good remake. And
mm,
then 3 came around and it was like fine, but there were like real pacing issues. It felt like they could have so easily uh like firmly connected 2 and 3 together in a more interesting way, and they kind of they almost disconnected them more, because I think they sent Carlos to the police station instead of Jill, during the like one moment that could have, and like they did a cute thing where like the wall gets blown out while Carlos is there in the bathroom, and like, okay, so that's nice connection, but like that was it basically. And it's like you could have done more there. There could have been something else. And like the game was over so much quicker too, much shorter game.
which is
So I
impressive.
yeah, no kidding. Like I hope that the three team, if there is a distinct Revelations 3, I hope that the three team are the ones working on that, and I hope that the Village team works on 9. Like I would assume that's probably the way it's going to go, but we'll have to see.
Are
I don't
there
know if
any
they're.
odds whatsoever on there being a Code Veronica remake?
I I want there to be, but I can't imagine since they moved on to 4 right away. Like, granted, 4 and Village have a lot of thematic ties, so like it makes sense that they'd want to put those close together. I would be very surprised if they turned around at this point to do either Code Veronica or Zero. Uh, I would love Code Veronica to get a remake, but like I've also heard folks saying that like there's some difficult to overcome issues with the way they wrote the Ashfords that would make it like tricky to if they just did a direct sort of remake of how they handle those characters like originally, that might not land so well. Depending on how they try to alter the characters, that might also be kind of a walking on eggshells kind of thing to sort out. And like I get that to an extent. Like that was a tricky thing to watch, even from a game from like 2000, let alone a game from say 2025. So I don't know. Like I would like there to be, because I think the game was very good, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there. But like the writing will definitely need some adjustments to make it like perhaps a little less insensitive in certain ways. So I don't know. Well, fingers crossed. But I feel like there's a better chance of a Resident Evil 5 remake than a Code Veronica remake, even
Well,
though
they did
5 and 6
apparently
do
do
not
some
need them.
significant character massaging in 4 remake, so
I had heard that. Yeah, we haven't gotten to any like really big ones just yet, but I had heard that they had like really worked over some of the characters a little bit to like. I think Louise also like we've seen a bit of Louise, who seems to be like a different characterization than we saw the first time around. So I'll have to see how like Salazar and all of those folks are like tweaked. I know Ashley also had some like adjustments to her character as well. So we shall see.
Right.
mm.
So, what are you planning to replace things like the Mega Man series once that's wrapped up?
Oh man, an eighth hour of sleep at night. Yeah, no, we've had some ideas we've been kicking around for potential new things. I am really interested in trying to free up a little bit more time to do like some long form video essay stuff in general. So like immediately after Mega Man is over, I'm not necessarily replacing it with a new thing, but there are other series and there are other franchise plays even that we've talked about. Adding into the fold when things clear up a little bit more. I expect Tears of the Kingdom we're going to be playing it until 2024. I can't imagine we're going to play it for less than 7 months, even at 30 minutes of video. But like when that's over, and when Kirby is over, and when Mega Man are over, that's a big chunk. I mean, Resident Evil will be mostly over by then too, like early next year. So we're going to be, whoop. So we're going to be in a spot where, oh boy, I hope you guys can still hear me, right? My headphones
Yes,
just made a thing, made a noise.
you are still here.
Excellent. But yeah, so like I don't know, we have some ideas. I don't necessarily want to spoil them just yet, but we do have like two in particular that we've been seriously considering. There's a third one that like has been loosely kicked around as well. I one of them would be like kind of a Resident Evil sized project. The other probably would be smaller than that in terms of like games for sure, length maybe about the same. It definitely has some like larger things in there, but it's also one that people have like both in on the team and off the team have been wondering if we'd get our hands into. So we have some interesting stuff. Nothing ready to announce just yet, but we are getting there.
Also, regarding the Mega Let's Play, if I remember correctly, you still had plans to do certain Mega Man adjacent games.
Yes, there's quite a few of them. 20XX, Protodroid Delta, Lunar Lux, Berserk Boy. There's a lot of like those styles of games that we're planning on covering that like they don't have the same level of like direct connection as some of the stuff we've done for the Mega Let's Play post game, but we certainly like they're so close and they're like clear um, you know, works of passion based off of that. Obviously, Inti Creates has a number of games like Azure Striker, Gunvolt that are in that same ballpark too.
Yeah, and that
Gunvolt
franchise is
Chronicles, all
7
that.
games now, lol.
Yeah, that blew up in the time we've been doing this. It used to be like 2.5 games, and now it's like 7. So it's like, okay, we got a lot of work ahead of us, I think.
Although I think
But
you
yeah,
already did Mighty Gunvolt, or did you not?
no, I don't think we have, not to my knowledge, anyway.
Because
I
I know
don't
you
think
were doing
I
Mighty
have
Number
done so.
9 related stuff.
Yes, we did do Mighty Number 9. We haven't done Mighty Gunvolt. Uh, but I know that like Inti Creates has been kind of pulling beck and call in here and there
Yeah,
for some of
the
those as
two
like
8-bit ones have Mighty Number 9 stuff in them too, in addition to Gunvolt,
nice.
and in the second one, Galgun.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to say Galgun might have been a Sony exclusive one for that. I don't remember. I know that there's something that is exclusive only
They
to
changed the name
Sony
of it, I
platforms.
believe.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
Like
that's what it
Ekoro is
was.
in both versions, but the other version is literally named Gal Gunvolt instead of Mighty Gunvolt.
Hilarious. Yeah, no, so yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, we have a lot of those that we're looking into as well. So we have a big list. I've got a couple Mega Man fan games that are in there as well because in the 2010s, that was all people had to go off of for a while when they stopped making official stuff. So got
Hmm.
a few more fan games coming as well, including some of like the most like popular ones, which I'm really excited about.
Right.
Looking forward to those, because I
Yeah.
do like me a good Mega Man like.
Same. Oh man, I've been waiting. I think we've done like one or two actual Mega Man likes so far. We did Rosenkreuz Stilett and we did oh god, I forgot the name of it now.
That
It was
super
like
old
a
8-bit one.
yeah, where he plays a witch. Oh no, I'm forgetting it now. I have the actual cartridge because it was a real NES cartridge release. It's honestly staggering that they didn't get just sued to oblivion. Um,
The Creon Conquest
the
/
Cryon
Magical
Conquest.
Dorothy.
Yes, that's right. Yes, yes, yes. Which is so blatantly a Mega Man clone. It's truly stunning. But yeah, no, very excited to kind of get back into those and keep going. And we had Mega Mari also for like a Toho connection too. Lots of stuff, lots of hard ones too. They get very
Hmm.
difficult.
Well, that's a nice
Um,
thing about jump and shoot, is that you can very carefully regulate the difficulty.
oh yes, yeah. There's a lot. There's a whole slew of difficulty curves out there for those games for sure, and a lot of folks who are even more gluttons for pain than I ever was. Very interesting to see how those go.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
we
Anyway,
yeah, we do have MSP today, right, Adam?
apparently not.
Oh, Mac
Like,
just decided to cancel. Okay.
yeah. Like, but it sounds like we've come to the end of the interview regardless. So,
I think so. I mean, unless you have anything else you wanted to.
not at this time.
Sorry, I hadn't seen that the other thing we had was canceled, so I was wondering if we were worried about time. Sorry. It's been really great to have you, though, and I always love talking about games, and you and Adam both love obscure entries in franchises and stuff. So,
Oh yeah, it's always a good time. Happy to
Yeah.
be on here again. This was great. Thank you
hmm
Yeah.
very much for having me.
Yeah. Not a problem. Not a problem. Anyway, I think we'll wrap up this episode, given we are time wise.
Hmm.
You know, plus I don't think anyone here is, wiring to talk about Mirror's Edge this week.
Unless you want me to snore into my microphone for the next 20 minutes.
Like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the game. Like,
I need to do a little more research into why they decided not to delist it and why they had been going to.
Yeah.
I
Well,
assume much of the former was people being mad that they were taking it away.
yeah, Mirror's Edge is a game I respect, but I don't like.
I never actually played it,
Like,
but I was interested.
yeah, I mean, I've played it, but I hate first person platform. I cannot stand it.
That's a tricky thing to pull off, yeah.
And but we'll get into that next week.
Hmm.
Like, anyway, so yeah, there is no MSP this week, as our guest canceled, so Mac canceled. No Friday show, so next time on the Sunday reviews, well, like I said, it's going to be the stuff we were supposed to review last week. So we'll be having reviews of Move, Him and Her Collection, Crazy Mosquito, and Can of Wormholes. So look for that. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.